Travis Wayne Goodsell. Before I left this afternoon, I had done a video, but while on my journey, I realized I'll just make it a journal vlog, so you guys will never see it. So yes, there's now secret videos of Travis Wayne Goodsell. Hidden in the vault. The secret vaults of Travis Wayne Goodsell. And I was just going over my youth as a Mormon. Some extra stories for you. It intended to originally be a resume for the LDS Church. It didn't turn out to be that, so I intended to do it when I got back. Now that I'm back, I had an email from a guy who occasionally supplies me with things he's discovered criticizing the church, and I replied to his email, and I'll be going over the information from that email for the subject of this video. As a Mormon, born and raised, I never knew there was a succession crisis when Joseph Smith was murdered. The church just says, oh, mean people did not allow Joseph to worship his God, practice his religion, and so they murdered him. And but Brigham Young was the president of the Quorum of the 12, and therefore he took over the church. So God's church remains on the earth. The authority of the priesthood still presides with Brigham Young, as they had the whole time. The prophet, seer, revelator, just not translator, and patriarch was left to itself and passed on to somebody else who was a descendant of Joseph Fielding Smith, or George Albert Smith too. I think the uncle came with the church, came with Brigham's church. But never did they bring up about Sidney Rigdon. They just said, oh, he apostatized. Lucy Smith, Lucy Mack, Emma Smith, yeah, apostatized. They were too wicked, too proud to go with Brigham Young. Literally, this is what I'm being taught in the Mormon church about the founder's wife. But, you know, they quote Joseph Smith saying that I'll go to hell to save Emma. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, he's going to save Emma, good. And I never hear about James Strang. Who? What? You know, David Whitmer? Really? He had a church? He didn't go? And there's other information about Oliver Cowdery that is kind of in error. But, yeah, that's the whole problem, is that the church now confesses to having lied about church history. But they're not telling us the true history now. They're just putting out new publications, and we're supposed to assume that because they're the true church, that they're now telling us the truth and everything's fine. We're learning new information. You know, kind of important whether or not Joseph wrote the Book of Mormon or somebody else, you know, like maybe Sidney. Which one is it? See, the church won't acknowledge Sidney, despite science confirming Sidney is the major author. Joseph Smith Jr.? Can't find him. Yeah. So, briefly go over the succession crisis for you before I get to the content of the email that I had sent off already. In August 1844, the very next month after the assassination, only Brigham and Sidney held a church conference. Lucy Mack also spoke at that conference. The two, Brigham and Sidney, were debating what should be done with the church. Sidney says, we need to stick with Joseph. We need to stick to his church. I'll only oversee it because, we need to follow the process for succession. Brigham Young said, nope. Gave his own speech. People later on then told in their journals in the Salt Lake Valley, oh yeah, when I heard Brigham speak, he was possessed by the spirit of Joseph Smith, and he was transformed to look exactly like Joseph and speak like Joseph, and I therefore knew that he was the one. So I didn't make a mistake coming to this Salt Lake Valley and following Brigham Young. Nope, I made the right choice. Now, so thus started the false doctrine that we have in abundance nowadays. But the Wikipedia page, and you must understand, the church acknowledges a succession crisis now. This is one of the things they have admitted that they lied about. Lied to me as a child growing up. I'm not taught in church. I'm not taught in general conference. I'm not taught in seminary. Not taught at Rick's and Institute. Nope. All a secret. Now with the internet, the church finally comes out and says, there was a succession crisis, but they validate it by saying, Brigham Young was the president of the Quorum of the 12 and therefore was the rightful successor. Everything's fine. There was no real crisis. Everybody was just panicking because of the death. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody checks and fact checks. But anyway, so they have the background, they have the 1844 succession with theoretical successors. And they have listed the Smith brothers, Smith children, and then they have Oliver Cowdery and David Whitmer. David Whitmer went on to form his own church anyway. Oliver Cowdery had left because he was the third wheel. Was not happy about that. He had been involved with the Book of Mormon from the beginning. Not David Whitmer, not even some of the other brothers of Joseph. It was just Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith Sr. and Jr., and Oliver Cowdery. It's unclear as to whether William Cowdery was or was not involved. He could have been, working there in the coopersmith shop with Smith Sr. to make the gold plates out of copper. But they go over each of these. Samuel was assassinated by Brigham Young with poison. I mean, dear God. William Smith was excommunicated by Brigham Young when they got rid of Joseph Smith, getting him in trouble with the law again because of the Danites. And then when Joseph got back, he called Brigham Young Judas and condemned him for exalting himself by getting rid of Thomas B. Marsh as the president and replacing him as president, and kicking out William Smith, and then Joseph put William Smith back in. And so after the assassination, William Smith was again booted out, excommunicated. And so the children were too young. That's why Emma had to wait until the third was old enough. And that was like in the 50s, maybe 60s, 70s, 80s. Let's check. Community of Christ. Homepage, let's do Wikipedia. Yeah, 1872. That's how long it took him to finally reorganize Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which eventually became the Community of Christ, as they sort of did away with the Book of Mormon to join the Christian coalition. And if you don't think the church is going to do that too, you're not watching my #1 video at the moment. And so then there were immediate successors. That would have been Sidney Rigdon, I think. And James Strang. No? Maybe? Let's go down and check. Yeah, it was Sidney Rigdon. Was pretty much the only survivor of the first presidency with the assassinations. Yeah, you can't trust people who followed Brigham Young to tell us the truth. So, there's a Nauvoo stake president. Yeah, he was... no, the High Council was the administrative 12. Okay, yeah, there's some errors, obviously. Conforming to the current church as if the original church was exactly the same. Oh no, that was the process. Nothing to see here. That was just a stake calling. You mean the center stake of Zion? The whole church? Just lie. That's what really pisses me off, is that they lied from my birth. And as a result of finding out that they've lied from my birth, Mormons hate me. You'll see thumbs down on my videos because I found out the truth. And Mormons don't like the truth because of the email comment that I make. So, yeah, James Strang, he was able to get some people because he actually forged some ancient plates of his own, made a translation of them, was able to show both the original plates and the translation, and had a forged letter by Joseph Smith, who needs Mark Hoffman, saying that all authority was to be passed to James Strang upon Joseph's death. And so, yeah, he got a lot of people to go with him, a lot of prominent people. Unfortunately, when he arrived with his commune cult on an island off of Michigan, he announced that it was time to practice polygamy, and he was mysteriously assassinated, and the church was disbanded. That gives you an idea of how the main church understood polygamy. They knew Joseph Smith was not practicing it, nor was he practicing it in secret. This should tell historians something that they're not wanting to accept. Alright. So, yeah, there was Alpheus Cutler. I don't see him discussed. Yeah, they're not focusing on him as much. And I'm not readily seeing his name stick out anywhere. He was in the High Council, the original quorum of 12. And he was told that Joseph had told him there was going to be a sign in the heavens, and to wait for that sign in the heaven before the restoration of his church. He jumped the gun as he assumed a sign in the heavens and started the church in the 50s. I'm pretty sure. I can't find his name. I'm not going to look it up for you because that's not the point here. And so the point is, why is the church lying? I mean, why can't they tell us the truth and just admit that they were the rightful successors? Why did they have to make up all these lies about Joseph Smith being a polygamist, a rapist of a 14-year-old girl? Why did they have to lie about the origin story? Willard Richards redacted it, changed it all. The name of the church, Moroni instead of Nephi. Why are they making all these changes and starting all these new things, but saying that, it's a succession of Joseph and Joseph was secretly practicing it? Because Mormons now believe, while you're the president of the church, you can change things if you want. You don't have to appeal to a former prophet to justify it. I guess back then you had to. And so with that change, they then made it so that you don't have to. But all the lies. All right. So, if you're trying to legitimize your band, your claim to succession, when you have all these others also claiming legitimate succession, how are you going to trick people to coming to yours? Because everybody thinks they're right. Everybody has a claim to one thing or another. Who's to know of all these different branch-offs which is right or which is wrong? Can we just, have somebody follow James and pray in the wilderness and have Heavenly Father and Jesus appear again and say, all right, now I'm going to choose you? Nobody did that, though. And the answer was simple. Oh, he responded. The answer is very simple. Joseph did put it in the Doctrine and Covenants, and it was in the 1835 edition. So people did have access to the knowledge of what to do when Joseph died, and they didn't. Why didn't Brigham Young follow that process? Let's go over the process first. Section 107. See, it was March 28th, 1835, just in time to make the new edition. And verse 22, and there was a guy, an elder in the older singles ward when I was there, who kept wondering, why is it called a sustaining vote? I'm not voting for them. I don't have any say at all, and we don't. I never voted for any of the prophets. I never voted for any of the presidents in my quorums, whether Aaronic or into the elders' quorum. Why are they calling it a vote? Here's why. And so in 21, here's the general principle. Of necessity, there are presidents or presiding officers growing out of or appointed of or from among those who are ordained to the several offices in the two priesthoods. And so here's the Melchizedek priesthood presiding high priest, the president of the church. 22. Of the Melchizedek priesthood, 3 presiding high priests chosen by the body. Holy crap. There's supposed to be an Adam on Diamond after each and every single death of the president of the church. Now, if you're Mormon or have been Mormon, you know what I'm talking about. I shouldn't expect to see any Mormon putting a comment, "What the hell are you talking about?" We all know Adam on Diamond. That's where Jesus comes from outer space, where all the other prophets of all dispensations also come, and they all give their keys back to Jesus. You don't give them back. He already has them. He gave them. You never lose your keys. You don't give them back, but that's the tradition. And it's not actually, there's the lies. But yeah, the Melchizedek priesthood is supposed to gather together, not the church, the priesthood, Melchizedek only. So elder to high priest to prophet, apostles. They had apostles, not just apostles in the quorum of the 12, which I don't even think they were apostle. I'd have to check. I'm not going to go there. But yeah, they're called the 12 apostles. But they're not called prophets. Nor are they called prophets, seers, or revelators. But this is how it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be a big vote. If you have ever learned about the is it catechism, or is that the ritual? Conclave of Catholics. When a pope dies and a new pope needs to be selected, they actually vote in conclave. You learn about this with Angels and Demons, starring Tom Hanks, directed by Richie Cunningham. From Happy Days. But the original book was far better than the movie version. So disappointed. I wanted the original book. Because there was, the Pope had born with a nun, the child that then assassinated him. Because he didn't know it was his father. And then there was some other stuff about the Illuminati and blah, blah, blah. But he won't do a book on the church. I don't know why. And so I have ended up doing it with all these videos. Anyway, I digress. And so you don't just choose the president and then the president choose who he wants as his counselors. No. They choose all 3. Right there. Of the Melchizedek priesthood, 3 presiding high priests chosen by the body. You remember grade school, don't you? Your grammar classes? Real simple and easy to understand. And yet the church has lied and has promoted the lie with a practical tradition for us to be deceived by. And thus we're now confused. Why is it a sustaining vote? I'm not voting. No, you're right. You're not voting. You're giving a loyalty oath. And so once they are chosen, then they are appointed and ordained to that office. Then, at General Conference, they are upheld by the confidence, faith, and prayer of the church. And if you have to do a right arm to the square, okay. Not necessary. It's just an announcement. Like a priesthood advancement. Only the Melchizedek priesthood holders give a sustaining vote. But in a state conference, it's just, and yes, such and such were advanced to such and such an office. And so, yes, you can see traces of what was supposed to be done, but just enough to screw you up as to the actual practical application. And so, yeah. And then here comes some confusing stuff. The 12 apostles form a quorum equal in authority and power to the 3 presidents previously mentioned. No, within the quorum, they have equal authority and power as the 3 presidents. Because there's other quorums not listed here. Where's the High Council? Where's the Apostles' Council or quorum? They're not listing them. He was giving examples. And so here's the 27 is why we still have homosexuality as the cause of Sodom being destroyed. Only use scripture references, not your own opinion, David Gaunt. Alright, so Brigham Young obviously didn't follow that, did he? He was the president of the Traveling 12 that had the keys of Peter, James, and John, not Moses for the first presidency. Oh, Moses? When did Joseph get those keys? Remember Elijah? Section 110 of the Doctrine and Covenants? Uh-oh. Yeah, but Nelson loves to do a photo op taking the keys away from Peter, the statue, at the Vatican Temple. Do you not understand why I'm so sarcastic? Why I'm so bitter for having been so lied to? And yet Mormons hate me, rather than hating the church, who lied to them too. So, let's get to where I explain it. Alright. Let's see. Where should I start? Okay. The church lies because Brigham and Heber began the lies. And the church purposely detracts away from Brigham and Heber to put all the focus on the lies Brigham and Heber have been telling about Joseph Smith, claiming it was truth. Sounds complicated, but in their minds, real simple. No, Joseph Smith did it. No, he did it. And then the church in 1923 lied about the lies about Joseph Smith that they claimed were true. So what ex-Mormons and historians are discovering are the lies of Brigham and Heber claiming to be truth. And so these historians and ex-Mormons are all believing the lies, the origin lies, as truth. And they're offended, obviously. And they're upset with the current church for having covered up this information of truth, which are actually lies. And so the church then says, oh, okay, yeah, these truths are really true. Oh, we confess to some of it. And so, in this way, the Brighamite branch can hold onto their legitimacy claim of succession over all the other groups that also claimed legitimacy succession. Does that help understand better why I'm so frustrated with both ex-Mormons and Mormons? We were all lied to, and they're still lying, and nobody cares about the truth. It's so frustrating. But yeah, I mean, I go on to tell this guy that people told me when I moved to BYU, or to Utah, that BYU used to be the University of Utah, but they wouldn't tell me why. Do all of you all know this? Do you know that there were brothels? Prostitution going on? Violations of the word of wisdom in the brothels? All this was taken away by the government, the United States. The church, or the United States, shut the church down, and thus they started up again in 1923 and decided to cover up the lies that were claimed as truths about Joseph Smith, because they couldn't reform or reorganize Brigham's organization. The United States won't let them. They have to create a new church because they can't use Brigham's church anymore. And so they had to lie about Brigham in order to justify moving on and continuing with the Joseph Smith's myths that the church is purposely turning it into. So, what a mess. But I hope that helps you understand what's really going on. So he's happy about the information that I had given to him. So, yep. If you're interested on the information that I gave him the Amazon site for the original version with some added extras of Lucy Mack's history of Joseph Smith, as well as the original church history, Joseph Smith history that we have in our canon, the 1838 version of 7 volumes that I once had, but then told him about the Joseph Smith papers and gave him that link. Told him that if he was rich, he could buy all the books. But I warned him that he would need to be very careful with the Joseph Smith papers because they're still covering things up, like the name of the church and Moroni. They're not putting Nephi in. They're refusing to do that. They're refusing to put in Joseph's name for the Church of Christ. Not the Church of Jesus Christ, not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Church of Christ. It was the Church of Christ the whole time. This is why Sidney Rigdon called his church the Church of Christ. So yeah. have to click on the hyperlinks and then follow them to find out that, oh, yeah, it was originally this. Leave it in the papers that way. God, they just can't stop the lies, the deception, and the cover-ups. You know, they get caught, and then they say, okay, are you satisfied? And then they get caught again. Oh, oops. Oh, here you go. Are you satisfied? Lies, 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 lies. And then I also submitted the links to Wikipedia about the different editions of the Brighamite Doctrine and Covenants. Those that were put in the 1844 edition after Joseph Smith was assassinated, which Brigham Young immediately changed back to his rejected Book of Mormon edition. Yes, Brigham Young proposed an edition, an updated editing edition of the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith looked at it, said, hell no, put it back. Brigham Young waited for him to die and put it back his way. And then that's the Wikipedia article, Doctrine and Covenants for Wikipedia. And then the section is sections added to LDS edition, where it gives you the dates and which sections were put in and which dates. And then Joseph Smith and the criminal justice system. This is vital to fact-checking the church on their lies. Their lies, 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 lies. And I give the one example that Heber C. Kimball married a third wife while Joseph Smith was running from the law. Joseph Smith is the only one with the sealing power of Elijah. Not Brigham Young, not his 12, only Joseph Smith. Who sealed Heber then to his third wife? It's Brigham and Heber who made the claim, oh, Joseph Smith was practicing polygamy in secret. And we all have been practicing polygamy in secret. Join us in our sex cult to the Salt Lake Valley. His second wife, 1829. When was the church organized and when did Heber join? He kept it a secret from Joseph. And so why did he even bother to join if it wasn't going to be a sex cult? And I've given you that answer. Heber C. Kimball under Masonry. That's all you need to know. Because it says he went to Canandaigua, New York. I wonder who the Master Mason was in Canandaigua, New York. That information is missing. Yep, and if you want to know who that Master Mason was, I recommend you look up Joseph Smith Sr. Do you now understand why I'm so frustrated with you guys? Why it's so frustrating for Mormons to wake up and say, wait a minute, dear God, Travis is a good guy, he's trying to help me. And ex-Mormons too. I got ghosted by John DeLynn because I exposed him as a sex cult leader of ex-Mormons. And so yes, I understand why he ghosted me. I caught him in the act. He knows how to groom for brainwashing cults. He knows. He's a doctor of philosophy or psychology. Oops. Don't want to give him an exalted title. So yeah, he ghosted me after I called him out, but I gave him an out to say, I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is not what you're doing. but you are educated. You know this information. You know how to do it to people. You are the most popular ex-Mormon. Maybe aside from the Tanners. But on YouTube. But even the Tanners, all they've done is collect original documents. They joined their own Christian church. They created the Utah Lighthouse Ministry. And so when they write their books, it's all, oh, here's the original document, church lies, and it's not Christian doctrine, therefore it's wrong. Not a good argument to use. Just give me the original documents, please. But John Dehlin knows better. He's been trained and educated on how to deceive people, how to create a cult group, and he's doing it. He's doing all the patterns of it. He's grooming ex-Mormons. And I caught him, and instead of saying, oh my God, thank you, Travis, let's work together to stop the church. Nope, he ghosted me. Because that's what innocent people do, right? Dear God.